Hi, I'm the broke college boy.
I need to tell you about a moment that still lives in my head rent-free. It's the moment I realized something strange about smart students. Some of the smartest people in school end up making one decision that quietly costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime. And the weird part? Nobody warns you about it when you're choosing a degree. I remember sitting in class filling out this form about what degree we wanted. I look around and everyone just knows. One girl confidently writes pre-law. The guy next to me says finance like he already owns 3 rental properties. Someone else says computer science like it's the obvious answer to life. And then the teacher says something extremely serious. Choose wisely. This decision will shape your entire future. Bro, I was 17. My biggest financial decision at that point was deciding between iced coffee or the water fountain to save $5. And now you're telling me I need to decide my entire life? But here's the strange part. Everyone acted like they had it figured out. These weren't random students either. These were honor roll kids. Teachers love them. Parents brag about them type students. The "you're going to be successful one day" crowd. And then a few years later, something weird starts happening. You see those same people posting on Reddit at 2 a.m. I hate my major. I graduated and I can't find a job. I did everything right and I'm still broke. So the question isn't why struggling students make bad choices. The real question is, why do smart students pick the wrong degree? And the answer has surprisingly little to do with intelligence. Most people assume choosing the wrong degree happens because someone didn't try hard enough, like they didn't research properly or they were careless. But spend 5 minutes on forums like r/college or r/personal finance, and you'll see the same pattern again and again. I graduated with honors and I feel completely lost. I did everything I was supposed to do. Why did no one explain this before I spent so much money on my degree? These aren't lazy students. These are usually the most responsible people in the room, the ones who followed every rule they were given. And ironically, that's the problem. Because responsible students trust the system, and the system gives them a very simple formula. Work hard, go to college, pick something respectable. Success will follow. But the modern economy doesn't actually work like that anymore. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, about 41% of recent college graduates are underemployed, meaning their job doesn't actually require a degree. 41%, nearly half, so millions of smart students followed the plan perfectly and still ended up somewhere they didn't expect. So what's actually going on? There are 3 traps that quietly push smart students toward the wrong degrees, and most people don't realize they're falling into them. The first trap is something psychologists call prestige bias. Prestige bias means we assume something must be valuable simply because it sounds impressive. For example, if someone says they're studying medicine, law, or architecture, people instantly react like, oh wow. But notice what nobody asks. They don't ask about the job market. They don't ask about realistic salaries. They don't ask what the lifestyle of the career is actually like. They just hear the title. And titles are powerful. Research in social psychology by Huberman and colleagues shows people will sacrifice money for higher status, which means status can override purely financial logic. Prestige literally overrides logic in our brains. And when you're 18 years old, prestige feels exactly like success. I remember telling someone my degree once, and they immediately said, "Oh wow, that sounds impressive." And I felt amazing for about 5 seconds. Then something uncomfortable hit me. Nobody asked what the job market looked like. Just the title. Sometimes we're not choosing a career, we're choosing a reaction. But there's a second trap that's even sneakier. I call it the school mindset trap. School teaches us a very simple rule. If you're smart and you work hard, you get rewarded. Good grades lead to good outcomes. That's the entire system. So high-achieving students naturally assume the same rule applies to careers. I'm smart, I'll just outwork everyone else, which sounds motivating. But the job market doesn't grade on effort, it runs on supply and demand. And this realization was honestly painful for me. Because school trains you to believe something that feels true but isn't. If you're smart enough, you'll succeed anywhere. But the economy doesn't reward effort evenly. 2 people can work just as hard for 10 years and end up in completely different places just because they entered different markets. According to data summarized from the National Center for Education Statistics, majors like business, health, social sciences, psychology, and communications are among the most popular choices. Millions of students graduate in these fields every year. Now, none of those degrees are bad, but when a field produces far more graduates than available jobs, competition becomes brutal. You're no longer just a hardworking student. You're a hardworking student competing against thousands of other hardworking students who had the exact same plan. And when that happens, outcomes start diverging dramatically. Analyses based on Georgetown's CEW data suggest engineering majors can earn well over $3 million across a career on median, while some social science and humanities fields are closer to $2 million, a gap of around $1 million or more. Not because one group worked harder, but because the market valued their skills differently, and nobody in high school tells you to think about it like that. Instead, you get the classic advice, follow your passion, which sounds beautiful until rent shows up. Look, passion matters, but passion without context can be dangerous because passion doesn't automatically create demand. Thousands of people are passionate about film, fashion, sports management, music, psychology, but the number of high-paying jobs in those industries is relatively small. Economists call this a winner-take-most market. A few people succeed massively, everyone else competes for the leftovers, and here's where it really messes with smart students. Because smart students think, okay, but I'll just work harder than everyone else. Bro, imagine 10,000 people thinking that exact same thing at the same time. That's the competition. Which brings us to the third trap. And this one is emotional. It's called identity attachment. By year 2 or 3 of your degree or job, your role starts to feel like part of who you are. So changing direction suddenly feels like failure, even when you know something isn't working. Economists call this the sunk cost fallacy. But when you're living it, it doesn't feel like economics. It feels like betraying yourself, so people stay. Even when they're unhappy, even when the job market isn't great, telling themselves it's too late at 22 years old, which is honestly kind of wild when you think about it. But here's the realization that reframes everything. Your degree is not your destiny, it's just your starting position. Some career resources, citing federal labor data, estimate that people change careers around 5 to 7 times over their working lives. 5 to 7. Most people do not stay in the field they originally studied, and honestly, that makes sense. The world moves too fast. 10 years ago, content creator wasn't even considered a real career. Now, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Entire industries appear and disappear within a decade. So the smartest strategy isn't finding the perfect degree. It's building adaptable skills, communication, problem solving, understanding money, learning how industries work. Degrees are specific, but skills are portable, and portable skills are what actually give people freedom. So if you're choosing a degree right now, or you're already in one and second guessing it, there are 3 uncomfortable questions worth asking. What does the actual job market look like? Not the dream version, the realistic one. Look up real job postings. Look at real salaries. How many people graduate in this field every year? Because those people are your competition. And competition matters more than people admit. What skills will you gain that still matter if you change careers later? Because statistically, you probably will. This doesn't mean everyone needs to study engineering or computer science. Life isn't a spreadsheet, but being honest about the economics of your choices saves a lot of pain later. If you made it this far and you're sitting there thinking, okay, I definitely picked the wrong degree, take a breath. Seriously, you're not behind. You're in the same position as millions of people. Careers aren't straight lines. They're messy. People pivot constantly. They learn new skills. They switch industries. Sometimes the degree you thought was useless ends up teaching you something extremely valuable. Maybe it taught you how to think, how to write, how to understand people. Those skills matter more than we realize. So if you're the broke college student staring at the ceiling at night thinking you already messed everything up, relax. You're not behind. You're just earlier in the story than you think. Alright, that's it for this episode, Broke Buddies. If this video made you rethink something about your degree or your career path, you're not alone. This channel is basically a community for people who are future rich, currently broke, and trying to make smarter decisions along the way. So if that sounds like you, subscribe, follow, join the chaos. And I'm genuinely curious, did this video change how you think about your degree? Or maybe you're already in one and thinking, yeah, nobody warned me about this. Let me know in the comments, because chances are someone else watching this is feeling the exact same thing. And next episode, we're talking about something a little more controversial. So I'll see you there, broke buddies. Broke to bankable, one episode at a time.